All right, I've been asked to address a few questions from the audience. First of all, I've been asked about bridge programs. During the break, people were saying, you know, what's a bridge program and is it good for me? How does it compare to what EagleJet offers? The answer is yes and no. I mean, it's not clearly best for one or the other. If the airline needs pilots when you graduate, then a bridge program can work. But what if the airline didn't need pilots? Then you would have gone through a program where the pilots weren't needed. Of course, the more airlines that a school like that was associated with, the better. Many of them just have one or two. What if they don't know your school? I mean, you probably aren't going to have companies from Seattle looking for pilots from schools in Florida. So there may be a geographic restriction as well, but it can work. What I do know is that all the airlines value better quality flight time, better quality training, and that's what the EagleJet program provides. They know that you can pass a ground school. You've taken an airline-type ground school. You've gone through and qualified in the simulator. You've flown the initial operating experience successfully, and then you've flown the line for 100, 250, 500 hours. They know you can do it. You know you can do it. Believe me, this first airline ground school is tough. I mean, I've been through it. I've taught it. I teach it today. Many people use the phrase drinking from the fire hose. You've got to know that going to school, your first airline school, is a big deal. If you've already been through one in a program like EagleJet, then you're going to have a much easier time and be successful at your initial airline. A small percentage of people fail training anyway, but more people fail this initial training than any other part. So it's a great time to get the experience and have the experience with the training to sort of know what you're up against. The ground school, the IOE, the multi-engine turbine experience, another thing they like about it, it's sort of like the military. To do this job, you have to wear the uniform and do the job each day. Follow the rules. There's a lot of rules in the airlines. And that, to them, the military is a good candidate. A person who's been through a program like this is also a good candidate because they've worn the uniform and followed the rules. Another question I get is, can I get hired right out of training? You know, if I go to some other school or I finish school and I now have my commercial instrument multi-engine rating, maybe 250, 300 flight hours, 10 hours multi-engine, maybe 20. Can I take that qualification and go right to work? And the answer is no. I mean, you'd have to add something to it. A basic commercial instrument pilot with 250 hours is not employable. We'll talk about CFIing. I mean, that's one thing. Additional ratings could qualify you as a certified flight instructor, but not at an airline. You're not going to work at an airline right away. You simply don't have the minimums that they require today, which might go as low as 500 hours. And by August of next year, it's going to be 1,500 hours. So I can say emphatically, in August of 2013, you will not go to work for an airline with basic qualifications. You will need additional flight experience. Most airlines now require 50 to 250 hours of multi-engine and up to 1,500 hours total time. It will be required by August of 2013. You'll have an ATP as well, the rating, not just the flight time. Okay, question I have, experience. What experience are the airlines looking for? Good question. You know, what do I need to give them to get the job that I want? They like flight training and operational experience that is as close as possible to what they do, so they know you can do it for them. They fly crew-served multi-engine turbine aircraft and schedule flight operations. That's exactly what they do. I mean, you're doing with EagleJet what the airlines do. It gives them total confidence that you can come there, be hired, be successful in training, and do the job. You will complete the same training requirements that any airline pilot does, and that gives them this confidence. EagleJet is a choice that takes away the can you do the job question. Another question is about the CFI. And if I have to add something to that, what most people add to it is a certified instructor, instrument instructor, multi-engine instructor rating. Should I do that versus the multi-engine turbine time building program with EagleJet? Well, the answer is maybe. Not a clear yes or no. Flight instruction is not for everybody. If you are uncomfortable being a flight instructor, then don't be a flight instructor. I mean, not only should you not do it for yourself, but you shouldn't do it for your students. If you're not comfortable with it and you're not able to do a good job with it as a result, then your students are going to suffer, and probably your job performance is going to suffer too. So it's not for everybody. Single engine flying. Most flight instruction is in single engine airplanes. And you can use total time and single engine time up to a point, but there comes a time when it has to be multi-engine. and multi-engine is hard to get. Most flight schools have a group of single-engine airplanes, 1 or 2 multi-engine airplanes if they're big enough, and getting time in those multi-engine airplanes goes to the senior instructors and with more advanced students. So it's hard to get that flight time. And multi-engine turbine time simply is not available at a flight school. Flight schools don't have turbine airplanes, they don't have multi-engine turbine airplanes, and if they do, you can't get to them. They don't have them anyway. So you have to worry about things. As a flight instructor, are you going to be able to fly? What's the weather? You're in a single-engine airplane. Maybe it's not instrument equipped. What's the weather? Is the student available? You're working with individual students. They have jobs, families. A lot of times they don't show up. Aircraft availability. Is the airplane broken? Did it break down somewhere else and didn't come back yet? How many hours can you get a month? None of that takes place at EagleJet. You go to work in a multi-engine turbine environment on a schedule. You wear a uniform, you show up 5 days a week, you do your job, you get your flight time. It's a guaranteed thing, and they like that. Airlines like it. Another question, should I purchase block time or a single-engine or multi-engine aircraft from a flight school? You can go out and buy the experience that you need as far as the logbook. But if all you need is total time or multi-engine time, it could work. I mean, there are people that do it. It's expensive, but it should not be compared to real-life experience. Flying around the local area in a leased airplane is different than having a job to do, delivering the packages, or doing whatever's required in this airline position that you're working with EagleJet. You've got to do that job, and the dispatch reliability is 99%. You're going to do it, and you're going to do it all the time. You're going to go. The plane's broken, they're going to get it fixed. If the weather's bad, you're going to wait and go when you can. If it's dark, you fly anyway. You're going to get this stuff done. The training itself that you do, going through the ground school, the simulator, the IOE, the training itself is worth about the cost of the program. So the flight hours that you buy are very inexpensive, including the training. You're only paying about $50 to $80 an hour for this multi-engine turbine experience. Airline first officer programs versus EagleJet. Now the name of that sort of implies that it's with an airline, and of course it's not. It's with a flight school that is affiliated with an airline that will deliver you to the airline with some training, hopefully in the aircraft and procedures that they operate. It depends on the first officer program whether that's a good deal for you. Are they 100% dedicated to airline training and experience? Do they use multi-engine turbine airplanes? Answer to that, very few are using turbine airplanes. Are the owners experienced airline pilots? Is this set up and run like an airline because the owners know the business? Do they provide complete career guidance? Do they answer your other questions? I mean, there's many missteps that could be made along the way. Perhaps you'll learn something from our presentation earlier that would now help you achieve your goal. Well, that's going to happen during this program as well. You're working with and around airline pilots, and you're going to learn what it takes to get the job. Is cross-country, actual instrument, or a night experience included? In many cases, in a flight school, if you're building time, if it's raining, you don't have to go. If it's dark, it's not a requirement. You can fly around the local area. You don't have to go to a destination and back. So you can avoid all that stuff, and that's the reason the airlines don't like time building as well as working an actual job. What's the value of seniority? Well, I've talked about it in my presentation earlier. Seniority is everything. It's determined by when you're hired or perhaps when you graduate from training initially with an airline. It's like getting on an elevator, a single-person elevator you can't pass, and you're on that elevator or escalator for the rest of your life. You're moving up the escalator, and when you get hired is when you step on, and you don't step off until you retire. So you can't pass anybody. Getting on that escalator is key. The sooner you get on, the better your life will be. It determines the aircraft you fly, when you fly it, where you fly it, your vacation, your time off, your pay, your retirement, everything about your life is controlled by seniority. Everything in the airline career. So getting hired sooner is what it's all about. I mean, the object here is to use additional qualifications and experience to get the job sooner. And if you can do that, you'll be paid back many times. If you had a career that was paying $150 a year and benefits and retirement added another $150 at $300 a year, how long would it take you to justify a $15,000 or $20,000 program? So if you can afford it, these programs move you into a job sooner, and sooner will pay you back many times over in the future. Should I get a type rating with no experience? And of course, the type rating that you could afford comes with no experience. Maybe. All right. Most airlines do not hire captains directly. So the type rating in the past was reserved for the captain. You didn't need it to get the job. Now, You're going to have a type rating, but when they hire an ATP in the future, the airline will typically provide the type rating, so you are buying something that you will eventually get from the airline. They do not require previous captain's experience. I'm sorry, they do. They do require previous captain's experience. So when you're going to work as a captain, you can't just have the rating, time in a simulator, 1 or 2 hours in an airplane and go to work hauling passengers or boxes. That's not going to work. They're going to want 500, 1,000, or thousands of hours of captain experience to use you as a captain. You'll be hired as a first officer. That's what most airlines do. And your seniority will be determined by which aircraft you fly. So even if you get a type rating on one airplane and you're hired there, your seniority within the group will let you pick what you want. If you're on the bottom, you don't get to pick, you get what's left. What's left may not be the airplane you have a type rating on. The airlines know this. They don't typically hire pilots with type ratings for that very reason. They can't control the airplane you'll fly. So this training, the type rating and experience is simply not a minimum requirement for hardly any airline. There's 1 or 2 airlines that want you to get a type rating after you're hired, Southwest, but nobody requires a type rating to get the job. Another question, what are the requirements to join EagleJet? It's pretty straightforward. It's designed for lower time pilots to give them additional qualifications and experience to help them get their first job. FAA commercial pilot's license, an instrument rating, a multi-engine rating, second class medical certificate. We of course recommend at some point in your life you get a first class to make sure you can hold it, and thereafter a second class is fine. Instrument flying proficiency. This is no kidding, folks. This is an operational program. You're a required crew member on an airplane that's out there doing the job. You cannot be instrument deficient. It won't work. If you are, you're going to be sent home or to get additional training. So this is a no kidding requirement. If you got this training 5 years ago and you haven't touched the plane in a while, but you have these other requirements, it's not going to work. You must be instrument proficient and ready to do the job in the simulator to the ATP standard to get this job. No minimum flight experience required. That's the good news. For very little flight time, you can, if you have the skills, you can get in this program and build additional flight time and experience. How about a military pilot? I mean, most military pilots are well qualified and experienced, but not all. So can a military pilot benefit from an EagleJet program? And the answer would, some can. If you're a fully qualified military pilot with plenty of flight time, that would be at least 1,500 hours in fixed-wing aircraft. Rotary wing doesn't count. Then you probably don't need a program like this. But if you're a lower time, if you don't have the flight time you need for your ATP, if you have all rotary wing or mostly rotary wing time, and need to build a fixed-wing hours, then an EagleJet program can work for you. The airlines value airline training and experience just like they value military experience. They like military qualifications and experience. They like airline qualifications and experience. Having both is an even better asset. All right, I have one question from over here. I have a non-aviation job. I have my commercial instrument and multi-engine qualifications, but I have low flight time. It's a very common situation. Why should I choose EagleJet? Well, first of all, you can get into it with extremely low flight time. Now, flight training and the job are going to be tough. You're going to work hard to qualify. But no minimum flight time is required. If you can show the instrument proficiency, you can get this training position right away. You need to build the time in multi-engine turbine time. You need to get hired fast. I mean, simply, this is what it's about. Additional total time, multi-engine and turbine experience to get the next job. You certainly can do that. Get real-world first officer experience where you're actually making decisions. You're doing the pre-flight. You're doing the weight and balance. You're checking the weather. You're loading the plane. You're doing all the pieces that it takes to do this job. Real-world experience, entirely different than buying flight time for time building on your own. A full ground school, simulator training, initial operating experience, and line flying experience with an airline is invaluable. Do I need a 4-year degree? Well, if you watched my earlier presentation, you understand that a 4-year degree is essential. For the U.S. major airlines, the answer is clearly yes. The percentile, 100% for some, and the 90 percentiles for the rest, simply everybody has this qualification before they get a job at the major airline level. Pilots, however, could be hired at a smaller airline that doesn't require a 4-year degree and then be working on their degree on the internet. Now they're getting their flight experience and their education at the same time. It takes less time to do it that way. You have no life, don't get me wrong, this is going to be a job and education at the same time. You're going to be very busy, but you're going to cut years off of the qualification period, and therefore get the job sooner, better seniority, and a better life overall. Time off, flexibility, money, however you measure it. It's a great way to do it. Additional question is, what's unique about Eagle Jet program? I mean, are there other programs like it? Well, there's a few here and there, but this is really a program that's been around for 18 years or so, have been doing it a long time. They're working with well-established companies. They've got established procedures. They're flying FAA certified transport aircraft, both for training and the experience that you build. It's airline operational. I mean, you're doing CRM training. You fly in all types of weather, day and night, windy or calm. You're going to dispatch. 99% of the time, you're going to go and get the job done just like a real airline pilot. And that's why the airlines like it so much. You'll get resume and interview preparation help, other aspects of your job search, and a company recommendation if you do a good job when it's over. Eagle Jet is certainly an excellent choice for pilots that fall into these categories that need additional flight time and experience in multi-engine turbine airplanes. Well, I want to thank you today for your attention. It's been a pleasure working with you. Today's information and answers to these questions provided by Eagle Jet. If you have additional questions, please give us a call or contact us on our website. Thank you.